Now, a few of y'all might have already heard about this, about how the music industry has very close ties with the private prison system.
Yeah.
We've been bamboozled.
Hoodwinked.
Let us stay, I tell you.
All the Malcolm X words.
Once again, you know what I'm saying? In fact, I want to read this letter. This article, but it's actually a letter that was written by somebody that was a decision maker at a major label.
Shot caller. And
the title of the letter is The Secret Meeting That Changed Rap Music and Destroyed a Generation.
Damn.
So it says, hello. After more than 20 years, I finally decided to tell the world what I witnessed in 1991, which I believe was one of the biggest turning points in popular music and ultimately American society. Between the late 80s and early 90s, I was what you may call a decision maker with one of the more established companies in the music industry. I was invited to attend a closed-door meeting with a small group of business insiders to discuss rap music's new direction. Little did I know we would be asked to participate in one of the most unethical and destructive business practices ever seen. The meeting was held at a private residence on the outskirts of Los Angeles. I remember about 25 to 30 people were being there, right. Most of them familiar faces, as many of us did not care for rap and failed to see the purpose of being invited to a private meeting to discuss the future of hip-hop.
Talk to them.
Among the attendees was a small group of unfamiliar faces who stayed to themselves and made no attempt to socialize beyond their circle. Needless to say, this intrigued, in some cases, disturbed many of us. Quickly after this meeting began, one of the industry colleagues, who shall remain nameless like everybody else, thanked us for attending. He then gave the floor to a man who only introduced himself by first name and gave no other details about his personal background. He briefly praised all of us for the success we had achieved in our industry and congratulated us for being selected as part of this small group of decision makers. The subject quickly changed as the speaker went on to tell us that the respective companies we represented had invested in a very profitable industry which could become even more rewarding with our active involvement.
Damn.
He explained that the companies we worked for had invested millions into the building of privately owned prisons and that our positions of influence in the music industry would actually impact the profitability of these investments. I didn't know what a private prison was, but I wasn't the only one. We were told that these prisons were built by privately owned companies who receive funding from the government based on the number of inmates.
Mm-hmm.
The more inmates, the more the government would pay these prisons.
Mm-hmm.
It was also made clear to us that since these prisons are privately owned, as they become publicly traded, we'd be able to buy shares. Most of us were taken back by this. Again, a couple of people asked what this had to do with us. He told us that since our employees had become silent investors in this prison business, it was now in their interest to make sure that these prisons remained filled. Our job would be to help make this happen by making music which promote criminal behavior, rap being the music of choice. He assured us that this would be a great situation for us because rap music was becoming an increasingly profitable market for our companies, and as employees, we'd also be able to buy stocks in these prisons. Immediately, silence came over the room. You could have heard a pin drop. My daze was interrupted when someone shouted, "Is this a fucking joke?"
Right.
Two of the men who were part of the unfamiliar group grabbed the man who shouted and attempted to remove him from the house. A few of us, myself included, tried to intervene. One of them pulled out a gun and we all backed off.
Damn.
I asked him, why was he involved with something so corrupt? And he replied, it's bigger than the music business and nothing we'd want to challenge without risking consequences. So this meeting, bro.
Now that's a lot for a meeting right there.
It's worse than a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
You call this guy a bounty hunter? What's he gonna do? Flute those ogres a lullaby? What? Oh, no. Oh! Okay, guys!
looks like it's time to pay the piper.
See, after reading all this, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shocked, because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger, but they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time. In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah.
So they're getting paid twice. They're getting paid from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
So they making a killing.
A killing.
They're using the music business to promote their private prison business.
You can take your clothes, put them in the sand. You're going down the road, baby, and you can't come back. Someday, baby, you ain't gonna work for me anymore.
I think of most things in life as either a Bob Dylan or a Beatles song. But there's that one line in that one Beatles song, you and I have memories longer than the road that stretches out ahead. And that's clearly true here.
Well, the people who use America, corporations who use America, are groups of people who use America for a stepping stone for more powerful position in the rest of the world. I mean, face it, there's people who are trying to gain control of the entire world now.
Steve, you were today, Bill, you weren't here, but Steve showed a new function of Apple TV that brings YouTube directly to the TV. Is there going to be more of that from you? Do you see yourself, the way Bill says, as an enabler of entertainment, or? Well, I mean, putting aside your Disney role, but your Apple.
I mean, I think people want to enjoy their entertainment when they want it and how they want it, on the device that they want it on. So ultimately, that's going to drive the entertainment companies into all sorts of different business models. And that's a good thing. I mean, if you're a content company, that's a great thing. More people wanting to, enjoy your content more often in more different ways, that's why you're in business. But the transitions are hard sometimes. And, the music industry, it turned out that the internet got fast enough to download songs pretty easily. There was no legal alternatives, and maybe they made some bad choices in how they reacted to that. But, they're still trying to make the transition to a very different way of doing business, or ways of doing business, while they're under attack from piracy. And we can all highlight some of the mistakes that have been made, but, still, it's a tough job.
Why do you still do it? Why are you still out here?
Well, it goes back to the destiny thing. I made a bargain with it, a long time ago, and I'm holding up my end.
What was your bargain?
To get where I am now.
Should I ask who you made the bargain with?
with the chief commander.
On this earth?
And on this earth, and then in a world we can't see.
Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Reasons why we need to leave.
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like
and I inhale. I did inhale.
Okay.
It was a long time ago. But yes.
I know you have to go. They say you have to go.
I just broke loose.
I mean, was it in college? See, I like stuff like that. That's a real honest answer. Was it a blunt or joint?
It was a joint.
Hey.
Yeah.
You remember the high?
I do.
So if it was legalized all throughout the country and medicinal, would you do it?
Listen, I think that it gives a lot of people joy, and we need more joy.
We need more joy in this world. Another myth is I don't know if it's a myth, but they say you took campaign donations from Big Bang.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
What were you listening to when you was high? What was on? What song was it?
Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, definitely Snoop. Tupac, for sure.
What do you listen to now? What's your favorite hip-hop artist now? What's your favorite artist?
You know who I really love is Cardi B.
You like Cardi B?
I really do.
Okay.
I really do. Everybody gets really, just jokes. Sometimes I just turn on Be Careful of Me.
Nothing like the nigga I met. Talk to me crazy and you quick to forget. You even got me tripping. You got me looking in the mirror different. Thinking I'm flawed because you inconsistent. Between a rock and a hard place, the mud and the dirt. Do you know what you're doing? Then be careful with me.
Oh, snap.
How you doing?
Hi, Barry. How are you?
How are you? The name's Joe.
Let me give it a buck. I just want Trump out. Also, I of course want free Medicare, and this is why it's important to have free Medicare, because look what's happening right now. You see why we should have been have free Medicare for a long time. I of course think that we need free college education. That's second, and I want black people to stop getting killed and no justice for it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I just want more stricter laws that is fair to black citizens. You know what? If I kill somebody, I gotta go to jail. You gotta go to jail too.
She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
The market for cheap labor is booming behind bars. In the last 15 years, partnership between prisons and private manufacturers has increased significantly. They're becoming America's very own Chinese-style manufacturing line behind prison walls. Prisons, in fact, advertise themselves as such, as an alternative to outsourcing cheap labor to China or elsewhere. Hundreds of companies have used prison labor directly or through subcontractors, including Microsoft, Boeing, Starbucks, Victoria's Secret, and others.
They qualify for federal tax breaks. They can get recompensated up to 40% of the wages that they pay to these inmates. We as taxpayers, we have to house, feed, and provide medical care and everything for all of these inmates. We do this as taxpayers. It comes out of the tax pool. And that keeps the actual prison workforce healthy and in shape to go out and perform these jobs for these private companies.
This bill that I'm about to sign will give those prisoners hope of actually getting a job in the profession that they've been trained. I brought this piece of legislation over future firefighters and first responders a chance, like getting them opportunity to expunge their records, giving them a chance to get a certificate, getting a chance to potentially get a career ladder coming out of prison. So let me sign that. This is AB 2147 for the record. So this is official. And very grateful to get those grants for outstanding work. So.
This is the part where the white people start to applaud. Oh. And nod. Oh. Thank you, Jimmy. This was supposed to be the blackest Emmys ever. Y'all wouldn't have been able to handle how black it was going to be. But because of COVID, we can't even get in the damn building. Mm-hmm. Quoting our great poets like Cardi B. Say it with me, Jimmy. Black lives matter. Louder, Jimmy. Black lives matter. Louder, Jimmy. Say it so that Mike Pence can hear it. Black lives matter.
This afternoon, we also have an exciting announcement to ensure former inmates can overcome some of the greatest barriers to employment. To make this announcement, I'd like to invite up a very special guest and a powerful advocate for not only justice reform, but just a good person. And I hear she's starting to study law. She's also one of the most successful people in the entertainment business. Soon she'll be one of the most successful lawyers. I hate to tell all my lawyers back there. And she's been a real friend, and her husband has been a real friend of mine, Kim Kardashian West.
Spent so much time going to different prisons because I really had no connection to anybody on the inside, and really just felt like for me, I am at the place in my life that I wanted to make a difference and just wanted to do the right thing, but I didn't know how or what to do or even really what was going on.
I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but ain't one. I got the rap control on the gap control. Foes that want to make sure my casket closed. Rap critics to say he's money cash. I'm from the hood, stupid. What type of facts are those? If you grew up with holes in your sabotage, you celebrate the minute you was happy. Ohio, could you make some noise for your president, Barack Obama?
Give it up for Jay-Z. And you know, not only are they all on my iPod, and yes, the president has an iPod, but it's also because both of them tell an American story. You know, now, Jay-Z, I love you back. You know, I told Jay-Z the other day, you know, our lives are parallel a little bit. Nobody, I think, would expect us to be where we are today when they met us as younger men. Both of us now have daughters, and both of us have wives who are more popular than we are. And
that we have been had again.
Damn.
We've been bamboozled.
Hoodwinked.
Led astray, I tell you.
All the Malcolm X words.
Once again, you know what I'm saying? Now, a few of y'all might have already heard about this, about how the music industry has very close ties with the private prison system.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because the music business has invested millions of dollars in the private prison system.
She put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. Reasons why we need to.
Have you ever smoked?
I have. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California.
This is AB 2147.
The idea that we would not be taking the issue of lynching seriously is an insult. An insult to Senator Booker, to Senator Tim Scott, and myself, and all of the senators, past and present, to suggest that lynching would only be a lynching if someone's heart was pulled out and produced and displayed to someone else is ridiculous.
We must remember the murders of Emmett Till, Raymond Gunn, Sam Hose, and the thousands of others whose lives were destroyed by the barbarity of the lynch mob. But this bill will not do that. This bill would expand the meaning of lynching to include any bodily injury, including a cut, an abrasion, or a bruise, physical pain, illness, or any other injury to the body, no matter how temporary. Mr. President, words have meaning. It would be a disgrace for the Congress of the United States to declare that a bruise is lynching, that an abrasion is lynching, that any injury to the body, no matter how temporary, is on par with the atrocities done to people like Emmett Till, Raymond Gunn, and Sam Hose, who were killed for no reason but because they were black.
Pay from the artists they signing, and then they're getting paid from the the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to move on to this. Never before seen video from the Jussie Smollett hate crime case shows what appears to be a noose around the Empire actor's neck. This video from a Chicago police body camera was taken inside Smollett's home in January, at the time when he told police he was attacked. It's Adriana Diaz has the evidence that police say proves that the attack was actually a hoax.
He is like a star. He works on the show Empire.
Police body camera video shows the moment officers first arrived at Jussie Smollett's apartment after the actor claimed he'd been attacked. Smollett still has what appears to be a noose around his neck.
You want to take it off or anything? Yeah, I do. I just want to.
Smollett told police he was assaulted by two masked men, yelling racist and homophobic slurs.
Smollett paid $3,500 to stage this attack and drag Chicago's reputation through the mud in the process.
Smollett, who's maintained his innocence, was arrested and later charged with 16 felony counts for lying to police, charges that were later dropped by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office.
To suggest that lynching would only be a lynching if someone's heart was pulled out and produced and displayed to someone else is ridiculous.
This bill would expand the meaning of lynching to include any bodily injury, including a cut, an abrasion, or a bruise.
Just days after Smollett reported his alleged hate crime to police, and the Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx tried to persuade Police Superintendent Eddie Johnson to turn the investigation over to the FBI. Now, the request came after Fox received this text, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, from Tina Chen, a Chicago attorney and former chief of staff for former First Lady Michelle Obama. Quote, I wanted to give you a call on behalf of Jussie Smollett and family, who I know. They have concerns about the investigation. Shortly after that, a Smollett family member reached out to Fox, having been given her number by Obama's former assistant. Well, Fox then replied in a text message that she, quote, spoke to the superintendent and that she was, quote, trying to figure out logistics.
The people that I rose with will leave holes in what you drove in. If anyone in that car live, you tell that nigga I owe him.
I was the director of the Office of Public Engagement, which is the president's outreach office. And we were making a collective decision across many departments of a person to recommend to the president for an appointment. In my role as director of the Office of Public Engagement, it was my responsibility to really know and be in touch with all the constituency groups out there. When the president was going to select people for certain positions, we would help out in trying to make sure both that we could find a diverse set of candidates, but that also if any of the candidates we were considering had issues.
Nigga, you make that bed, you lay in that bed. I get that bitch made over.
What I know about Kamala, about Joe, is that they actually care about every American. And that they care deeply about this democracy.
To suggest that lynching would only be a lynching if someone's heart was pulled out and produced and displayed to someone else is ridiculous.
They believe that no one, including the president, is above the law, and that no public official, including the president, should use their office to enrich themselves or their supporters.
Senator Biden, it's nice to have you here. As the youngest member of the Senate, the one, therefore, who may expect the longest career there, I wonder if you'd say to us, since it's clear that you're not corrupt and you got elected, why should people think that the system produces corrupt results when there you are?
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt.
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt.
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt. But thank you for that, though. The system does produce corruption, and I think implicit in the system is corruption, when in fact, whether or not you can run for public office, and it costs a great deal of money to run for the United States Senate, even from a small state like Delaware, you have to go to those people who have money, and they always want something. I think it's the most degrading experience in the world to have to go out and ask for money, because you know that unless you accidentally agree with the position taken by the person or group that has the money, that you run the risk of deciding whether or not you're going to prostitute yourself to give the answer you know they want to hear in order to get funded to run for that office. And it's coincidental in many instances when in fact you happen to agree with where they are.
Pay from the artists they signing, and then they getting paid from the people that these artists influence that goes to prison trying to be like these artists.
Yeah.
Michelle and I decided that we had to build the Obama Presidential Center on the South Side in historic Jackson Park. It'll be a place for all seasons with winding landscapes, a sledding hill, and quiet spaces to read or reflect. The campus includes a museum, a library building, an athletic center, and a place we're calling the Forum, a public meeting space where people of all backgrounds can come together for programming, training, take in a performance in the auditorium.
And last but not least, Jussie Smollett. You don't want to miss out on this cuteness over here, so I'm sorry for those for blocking it. I'll be gone in a second.
The top prosecutor at the office that ultimately decided not to prosecute Smollett was actively seeking to help the defendant. And this was all set in motion by Michelle Obama's former chief of staff. Well, the Chicago Police Union is calling for a federal investigation into Fox's handling of the Smollett case.
You know what I'm talking about? Jussie Smollett. He's a very famous French actor. One night, he was in Chicago late at night and was the victim this shit was like international news. And everybody was furious. And for some reason, African Americans, we were like oddly quiet. We were so quiet about this shit that the gay community started accusing African American community of being homophobic for not supporting him. What they didn't understand is that we were supporting him with our silence. Because we understood that this nigga was clearly lying.
What I know about Kamala. About Joe.
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt.
Well, I'm not sure you should assume I'm not corrupt.
Hi, sorry to keep you.
That's all right. You ready to go to work?
Oh my God, I'm so ready to go to work.
And on this day, the day of George Floyd's funeral, on this day, a day that should be a day of national mourning, in 2018, the Senate unanimously passed bipartisan anti-lynching legislation, which I proudly introduced with the only other black members of this body, Senator Cory Booker and Senator Tim Scott.
Pull over, Everett. Let's give that colored boy a lift.
You folks going past Tishomingo?
Sure, hop in.
Thanks for the lift, sir. My name's Tommy Johnson.
How you doing, Tommy? Say, I haven't seen a house out here for miles. What are you doing out in the middle of nowhere?
Well, I had to be at that there crossroads last midnight. Sell my soul to the devil.
Well, ain't it a small world, spiritually speaking? Pete and Delmer just been baptized and saved. I guess I'm the only one that remains unaffiliated.
This ain't no laughing matter, Everett.
What'd the devil give you for your soul, Tommy?
Well, he taught me to play this here guitar real good.
Oh, son. For that, you traded your everlasting soul?
Well, I wouldn't use them. I've always wondered, what's the devil look like?
Well, of course, there are all manner of lesser imps and demons, Pete, but the great Satan himself is red and scaly with a bifurcated tail, and he carries a hay fork.
Oh, no. No, sir. He's white. As white as you folks. With empty eyes and a big hollow voice.
Before we begin, I just want to congratulate Harvey and his wife Georgina on the birth of their new baby boy.
Thank you.
Harvey gave us just what we needed, another hymn.
Finally, I'd like to thank Harvey Weinstein. The Punisher, that's his nickname. The Punisher, yes.
But tonight isn't just about the people in front of the camera. In this room are some of the most important TV and film executives in the world. People from every background, but they all have one thing in common. They're all terrified of Ronan Farrow. He's coming for you. He's coming for you. Look, talking of all you perverts, it was a big year. It was a big year for paedophile movies. Surviving R. Kelly, Leaving Neverland, Two Popes. Shut up. Shut up. I don't care. I don't care. Apple roared into the TV game with a morning show. A superb drama, yeah. A superb drama about the importance of dignity and doing the right thing, made by a company that runs sweatshops in China. So, well, you say you're woke, but the companies you work for, I mean, unbelievable. Apple, Amazon, Disney. If ISIS started a streaming service, you'd call your agent, wouldn't you? So, if you do win an award tonight, don't use it as a platform to make a political speech, right? You're in no position to lecture the public about anything. You know nothing about the real world. Most of you spent less time in school than Greta Thunberg. So, if you win, right, come up, accept your little award, thank your agent and your God, and...
He loved to travel around with a mean old hound.
He told you to go to Tishomingo?
Well, no, sir. Well, that was my idea. I heard there's a man down there. He pays folks money singing to his can. They say he pays an extra if you play real good.
Tishomingo, huh? How much he pay?
You know, I think of most things in life as either a Bob Dylan or Beatles song. Just tap up here in the search field, and of course I'm going to search for Dylan. And so you see the live searches. I just type a few letters. Comes back from the store showing me what I might be looking for. Of course, I'm looking for Bob Dylan. And
Snap back to reality. Oh, there goes gravity. Oh, there goes gravity. Choke. He's so mad, but he won't give up. That is he know he won't have it, but the beat goes on. This helps in the music. The moment you. My motto, fuck lotto. I get the 7 digits from your mother for $1 tomorrow.
I'm the janitor. The guy's inside. He's got a gun. What does he look like? What is he wearing? He's got a black hat. It's a ball cap. Go! Get the hell out of here! Go! Go!
Boy, I think you were a little hard on the beaver. So was Eddie Haskell, Wally, and Miss Cleaver. This guy keeps screaming. He's paranoid. Quick, someone get his ass another steroid. I ain't hear a word you said. Hibbity hoopla. Is that a tank top or a new bra? Notice that this man did not have his hands up. The free world's got you gassed up. Now who's afraid of the big bad wolf? 1, 2, 3, and gone, I did get jumped by all 6 of you chumps. And we did fuck my girl. I'm still standing here screaming fuck the free world. Never try to judge me, dude. You don't know what the fuck I've been through. But I know something about you. You went to Cranbrook, that's a private school. What's the matter, dog? You in Paris? This guy's a gangster? His real name is Clarence. And Clarence lives at home with both parents. And Clarence's parents have a real good marriage. I got him on a battle. He's shook. There ain't no such things as that way, bro. He's scared to death. He's scared to look at his fucking yearbook. Fuck Cranbrook.
We do know that we must do more to reach out to our children and teach them to express their anger and to resolve their conflicts with words, not weapons. And we do know we have to do more to recognize the early warning signs that are sent before children act violently. I think after a little time has passed, we need to have a candid assessment about what more we can do to try to prevent these things from happening.
Mr. President, before I talk about the business at hand here, I want to say how saddened we all are to know that 2 students lost their lives in Southern California. Others have been injured in a disgraceful act of cowardice. When America teaches our children right from wrong and teaches values to respect life and the values that respect life in our country will be better off. Our hearts go out and our prayers go out to the parents and the teachers and the children whose lives have been completely turned upside down right now.
They had their entire lives ahead of them. Birthdays, graduations, weddings, kids of their own. Among the fallen were also teachers, men and women who devoted their lives to helping our children fulfill their dreams. So our hearts are broken today for the parents and grandparents, sisters and brothers of these little children, and for the families of the adults who were lost. As a country, we have been through this too many times. Whether it's an elementary school in Newton or a shopping mall in Oregon or a temple in Wisconsin or a movie theater in Aurora or a street corner in Chicago, these neighborhoods are our neighborhoods and these children are our children. And we're going to have to come together and take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this, regardless of the politics.
In the end, sort of a poster boy for fear, because I represent what everyone's afraid of, because I do and say what I want.
If Marilyn Manson can walk into our town and promote hate, violence, suicide, death, drug use, and Columbine-like behavior, I can say, not without a fight you can't.
The 2 byproducts of that whole tragedy were violence and entertainment and gun control. And how perfect that was the 2 things that we were going to talk about with the upcoming election. And also then we forgot about Monica Lewinsky, and we forgot about the president was shooting bombs overseas, yet I'm a bad guy because I've sang some rock and roll songs. And who's a bigger influence, the president or Marilyn Manson? I'd like to think me, but I'm going to go with the president.
Noam Chomsky is the most quoted intellectual alive today. His books have helped me understand the nature of globalization and its effects on people and societies throughout the world. I spoke with him at MIT, where he is a professor of linguistics. Thank you for joining us today. Just a few questions here, starting off with a question about NAFTA. In my opinion, one of the current myths about the North American Free Trade Agreement is that its passage would bring about prosperity for everyone involved. That the flow of cheap products from Mexico into the U.S. would save consumers money and therefore increase their living standards.
Actually, we don't even have to argue much about the consequences because it's now conceded. In fact, it's now generally conceded that the hullabaloo about all the great things that were going to happen was just hype. It was intended to ram it through and they didn't really expect it. This has nothing to do with raising the economies, has to do with locking them into the reforms. The idea, what they call the reforms, are the so-called neoliberal structural adjustment programs that were imposed on Mexico in the early 80s, opening up the economy to foreign imports, cutting back on public subsidies, putting an end to efforts to develop the economy internally, so like import substitution and so on, essentially opening it up to foreign exploitation. Now you've got to lock that in. Well, why do you have to, what does it mean to lock it in? Well, NAFTA is kind of like a treaty. And that means if another government comes along in Mexico, it's not going to be able to get out of it easily. Right. I mean, if the United States wants to get out of a treaty, it's no problem. We just tell them to go shove it. So you want to make sure you lock Mexico into the reforms.
They use force to make you do what the deciders have decided you must do. Do what they told you. Do what they told you. Do what they told you. You do what they told you. Now 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 you do what they told you. And now you do what they told you. And now you do what they told you. And now you do what they told you. Those who die. Justified, I'm wearing a bag, take it to say what? You're justified, those that die, I'm wearing a bag, take it to
Laughing matter, Everett.
What did the devil give you for your soul, Tommy?
Well, they taught me to play this here guitar real good.
Oh, son, for that you traded your everlasting soul?
Well, the people who use America, corporations who use America, are groups of people who use America for a stepping stone for more powerful position in the rest of the world. I mean, face it, there's people who are trying to gain control of the entire world now.
Been 10 long years since the devil laid his fiddle at Johnny's feet, and it burned inside his mind the way he suffered that defeat. In the darkest pits of hell, the devil hatched an evil plan to tempt the fiddle player, for he's just a mortal man. The sin of pride, the devil cried, is what will do you in.
I thought we had this settled. I'm the best it's ever been.
Johnny, did you ever know the time keeps marching on? The coldest hour is the one comes just before the dawn. The devil's back in Georgia, will you stand up to the test? Or will you let the devil be the best?
That we have been had again.
Damn.
We've been bamboozled.
Hoodwinked.
Led astray, I tell you.
All the Malcolm X words.
Once again, you know what I'm saying? Now, a few of y'all might have already heard about this, about how the music industry has very close ties with the private prison system.
Yeah.
And the reason being is because the music business has invested millions of dollars in the private prison system.
Corruption in Tennessee was just all the way to the top. The country music industry provided a cover for mind-controlled slaves like myself to be taken around the country to the various places as designated, and also to distribute and deliver the large quantities of CIA cocaine that was coming into the country. It was my experience that the CIA's so-called war on drugs is no more than the CIA eliminating their competition as they take over the drug industry worldwide.
The fourth challenge is to take back our streets from crime, gangs, and drugs. But we also have to have an organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel. And
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles Police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time.
Well, at one time I felt that selling cocaine was my purpose.
We was starving, just looking for a way to succeed.
The first time I seen rock cocaine was 1980.
Murder rate was sky high.
South of the 10 freeway was kind of a no man's land.
He said, you know, we're selling it to the blacks. He said, you go into these neighborhoods, there's no cops, you can sell it where you want, and when they start killing each other, nobody cares.
I was going through like $1 million worth of drugs just about every day.
That's like gold.
Rick, Freeway Rick.
Freeway Rick was getting his dope from a very big operator.
They had been trafficking on behalf of the United States government.
I had to wet the donkey, get some filler seats. Fucking Bean Projects is where the killers be. Can't be talking all louder, niggas getting shot. Homicide died in the line of hip-hop. All my niggas out the Scots, let the quick slop. Swear to God, I'ma die for this wristwatch. Growing up at Risco, they called us piss po. Realest nigga in the city, let a bitch know. Red bottoms all white just to shoot dice. Rick Brownlee will do it like a...
They took their war on drugs to our street corners and turned our streets into a bloodbath.
Let me tell you a little bit about Tyler Durden. Tyler was a night person. While the rest of us were sleeping, he worked. He had one part-time job as a projectionist. See, a movie doesn't come all on one big reel. It comes on a few. So someone has to be there to switch the projectors at the exact moment that one reel ends and the next one begins. If you look for it, you can see these little dots come into the upper right-hand corner of the screen.
In the industry, we call them cigarette burns.
That's the cue for a changeover. He flips the projectors, movie keeps right on going, and nobody in the audience has any idea. So when the snooty cat and the courageous dog with the celebrity voices meet for the first time in reel 3, that's when you'll catch a flash of Tyler's contribution to the film. Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
Nice big cock.
And they replaced the triggering mechanism with hypnotic codes, keys, and triggers, hand signals. There's also phone tones that can also open those neuron pathways and give access to the compartmentalized memory as well.
Pavlov tried a new technique. He erected screens so that the dogs couldn't see what was going on. Before passing meat through the hatch, he introduced a stimulus that was totally unrelated to feeding. A ticking metronome. At first, the dog dripped saliva into its cheek tube only when the food appeared. But after a number of trials, the dog began to connect the ticking with the arrival of meat. Soon, the sound alone made the dog drool. Eventually, the dog salivated as much to the ticking itself as it did originally to the presentation of food. He called this new response the conditioned reflex. Whatever the stimulus, his dogs could soon be conditioned to produce saliva.
The way this experiment's gonna work is every time I take a deep breath and then step on the brake, I will conditionally train my passengers to be anxious and become alert and tense up.
Ready? The force has to come up through and then lock it up. Oh my god, I love it. Do it again. It feels good.
You know, I almost died right there.
1, 2.
Where are you going? Jump to 2. Why do you keep doing that?
I remind myself that times could be much worse. Life will ask me questions. There's not so much to ask, and she'll never find around an empty bench.
I hate you guys. Don't do that.
Whatever the stimulus, his dogs could soon be conditioned to produce saliva.
Right. Over the last half-century or so,
almost every comedy on television had canned laughter. From I Love Lucy to The Big Bang Theory. For some, the laughter is viewed as an imposition. For others, a secondary character you almost forgot was there, until it wasn't anymore. In recent years, the laugh track has been used less and less as sitcoms in general have decreased in popularity.
But because we haven't had a studio audience since our return, we're worried that it feels, a little dead. So we want to try an experiment, which is this. I'm going to do some more monologue jokes, and we're going to use a laugh track to see how it feels. It's not something we do in ordinary circumstances, but I do think, it'll liven the show up a little. So we're going to have our stage manager, Tom Yusufari, and operate a laugh track machine while I tell my jokes.
Whatever the stimulus, his dogs could soon be conditioned.
Okay, so with that, let's get to the news. During a recent press conference, President Trump urged Americans to stop politicizing the coronavirus, or as he calls it, the Democrat virus. Tom?
What?
Everything okay with the button over there?
Yeah, working great.
So, where were you with the laugh after that joke?
Oh, no, nothing. I'm sorry. I'll press the button.
Whatever the stimulus, his dogs could soon be conditioned to produce saliva.
Thank you. Thank you. As usual, a great crowd. This is week 3 for my home. I'm Bill Maher. I'm putting the home in home box office. And, I love my home. Oh, home. I love home, sweet home, home, but enough of home. I never thought I would miss traffic. Thank you.
Tom, what are you doing, buddy?
Just waiting for the joke, Seth. Finger at the ready.
That was the joke, Tom.
What was?
200 chicken wings, or as it's called in America, a serving.
Oh, wow. My bad. I guess I just didn't get that one. Here you go.
Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
Nice big cock. Whatever the stimulus, his dogs could soon be conditioned to produce saliva.
My mom absolutely hated this guy. When I was growing up, the Satan seminars were really happening. Led Zeppelin being played backwards, Shout at the Devil.
Your involvement in the Golden Dawn?
Oh, my involvement in the Golden Dawn is in so much as I was very interested actually in Eastern and Western mysticism. And I spent time reading and researching when I was younger.
Do you think that's why people did that thing when they played Stairway to Heaven backwards and said that you were talking about Satan?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go straight back to the Beatles here, because there was a time when somebody wrote a thesis about Paul McCartney being dead. And Paul is dead, and if you played back the records, I'm very serious here, it's crazy, but if you played back the records, there was something which said Paul is dead.
Everybody gonna feel alright, everybody gonna dance around tonight. Yeah, everybody's gonna jump and shout, everybody's gonna sing it out, everybody's gonna dance around tonight.
Here's to the theory is that after an argument during a Beatles recording session on November 9th, 1966, Paul McCartney sped off in his car only to be decapitated in an auto accident when he lost control of his vehicle. The UK security service MI5 advised the band to find a replacement, for they feared that if the news of Paul's death got out, mass hysteria would spread among Beatles fans, leading to civil unrest and possible mass suicide. The band held a Paul McCartney lookalike contest, and the winner was a Scottish orphan named William Shears Campbell, otherwise known as Billy Shears. After undergoing some minor plastic surgery, the Beatles taught him how to sing, act, and play music just like Paul. Luckily, and they were all set to don a new look for their upcoming album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Now, the cover seems innocent enough until you look deeper and you see what others have described as a funeral. The Beatles are pallbearers as they are all turned towards him, with Paul facing front, dead on. The British comedian Izzy Bond holds his open palm above Paul's head, signifying death in Eastern mysticism. Paul is the only member holding a black instrument, also a death indication. If you hold a mirror to the bass drum head, it reveals a hidden message. The number 1 plus the word 1 stands for the 11th month, or November. Then we see the Roman numeral for 9. This represents the day Paul died, November 9th, with the following message, he died, reinforcing this theory. Turning to the music, towards the end of I Am the Walrus, buried deep in the cacophony, we can just barely hear voices reciting the death of Oswald from Shakespeare's King Lear. But even more brazen, when you play this section backwards, you can hear the demonic chanting, Paul is dead, ha ha. Flipping over to side 2, Strawberry Fields Forever reveals what appears to be John saying, I buried Paul. Moving on to the music, the song Glass Onion contains a very obvious wink to the fans, as if John is confirming they're on to something.
Well, here's another clue for you all. The walrus was Paul.
At the end of I'm So Tired, we hear some gibberish. But when we play this backwards, we hear John say, Paul is dead man, miss him, miss him, miss him. Finally, if we play the beginning of Revolution 9 backwards, we hear probably the most convincing piece of evidence. Turn me on, dead man.
And so then they started to play back all manner of records, and of course we were going to be main candidates for it. And somebody said, oh, it says My Sweet Satan in it. And I thought, oh gosh, it's hard enough writing the music one way round rather than that way.
Another example of this with auditory illusions. There's this film White Noise with Michael Keaton about the dead talking back to us. By the way, this whole business of talking to the dead, it's not that big a deal. Anybody can do it. Turns out it's getting the dead to talk back. That's the really hard part. In this case, supposedly these messages are hidden in electronic phenomena. There's a reversespeech.com webpage in which I downloaded this stuff. Here is the forward. This is the most famous one of all of these. Here's the forward version of the very famous song.
If there's a button in your hedgerow, don't be alone there. It's just a sprinkling for the make queen. Yes, there are 2 paths you can go by. But in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on.
Boy, can you just listen to that all day? All right, here it is backwards, and see if you can hear the hidden messages that are supposedly in there. What'd you get? Satan. Okay, well, at least we got Satan. Now I will prime your auditory part of your brain to tell you what you're supposed to hear, and then hear it again. You can't miss it when I tell you what's there.
Nobody knows that they saw it, but they did.
And they replaced the triggering mechanism with hypnotic codes, keys, and triggers, hand signals. There's also phone tones that can also open those neuron pathways and give access to the compartmentalized memory as well.
All that stuff. My mom was just concerned about me. You're listening to this god-awful music with all these scary images on it, and she was just trying to protect me, and I get that. But they would burn my records. If you had a Metallica shirt on, you couldn't walk in my house. While I was living in her house, man, I probably had over 100 records burned. It was hardcore, you know. I was like, well, why do you like this and why do you like that? It's like, I love music and I like this stuff that's kind of aggressive sounding to you. And I was trying to be like Sid. I was cutting myself, and safety pins through the nose and all that stuff. It was my own way of rebelling, which is natural. Every Hank Williams has rebelled. It's just, I was into punk rock and heavy metal.
Well, my worn out boots are taking me downtown, and I'm looking for trouble, and I want to get loud. Serve me up a drink, and I'll shoot it right down, and I'll jump up on the bar and holler one more round. I'm going straight to hell. Ain't nothing slowing me down. I'm going straight to hell. So you just better give me one more round.
Intensity's heightened. Tensions are rising. Trump, when it comes to giving a shit, you're stingy as I am. He's gonna build that thing up taller than this.
Tom, what are you doing, buddy?
Just waiting for the joke, Seth. Finger at the ready.
That was the joke, Tom.
What was? Oh, wow. My bad. I guess I just didn't get that one. Here you go.
And any fan of mine who's a supporter of his, I'm drawing in the sand a line. You're either for or against. And if you can't decide who you like more and you're split on who you should stand beside, I'll do it for you with this. You.
I wrote the music your dad grew up to. Half of what you sang along to as a kid, and I'm still doing it. And these teenagers are dancing to my music. I want it that way. Tell me why.
You're telling me there's hidden messages in old pop songs?
Movies, television shows, everything you know.
Why?
That's pop culture, isn't it? Floats away like tissue paper. And there is your wedding song. Here it comes. I want to know what love is. And I want you to show me when you were 15 and rebelling. You were rebelling to my music. Uh-oh. That's one you know. That song was not written on distorted guitar. No. I wrote it here on piano somewhere between a blowjob and an omelet. There is no rebellion.
I don't believe you.
Your art, your writing, your culture is the shell of other men's ambitions, ambitions beyond what you will ever understand.
Angels fight with devils, and here's what they want from me. They're asking me to eliminate some of the women hate, but if you take into consideration the bitter hatred I have, then you may be a little patient and more sympathetic to the situation and understand the discrimination. But if I can't battle the women, how the fuck am I supposed to bake them a cake then? Don't mistake if the think not. Why be a king when you can be a god?
My plan was so simple that it terrified me.
First, I must get the death mass, and then I must achieve his death. What? His funeral. Imagine it. The cathedral. All Vienna sitting there. His coffin. Mozart's little coffin in the middle. And then, in that silence, music. A divine music bursts out over them all. A great mass of death. Requiem Mass for Wolfgang Mozart, composed by his devoted friend, Antonio Salieri. Oh, what sublimity, what depth, what passion in the music. Salieri has been touched by God at last, and God forced to listen. Powerless to do, powerless to stop it. I, for once, in the end, laughing at him. The only thing that worried me was the actual killing. How does one do that?
How long have I been in jail? 34 years? 34 years, so...
Out of 47, you've been here 34.
I've been in jail, prison, a long time, all my life. I was raised up in here. So I understand jail. So I understand myself, and I can deal with that. I sit in my cell, and I do my number, like a convict does his number.
Love all the pain that you've caused people, all the anguish you've caused.
Oh, I don't know pain. I don't know pain. I have no depth of pain. I have no depth of suffering. I don't know ridicule. I don't know all the bad things. I haven't been punished by you all my life since I was 10 years old. I've been in every reform school you got across the country and used to lay down and have to get my ass whipped till I couldn't walk. Tell me about some pain.
And that's our fault. That's all those people
No
want.
fault. Make strong, good pain. Understand pain. Not bad. Pain's not bad. It's good. It teaches you things. It teaches you things. Like when you put your hand in fire, you know not to do that again. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
This is Charles Manson's latest record, which I got not too long ago. So he's still putting out records. There is a session that really hasn't gotten released, and it's about 2.5 hours, him trying out in front of the big guys. In the middle, there's this one old standard song that he does, and I played it from Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys. It's like, okay, I'm not going to tell you who this is. I just want you to listen. Oh, it's like, man, it's a jazz crooner. That's like Frank Sinatra sounding, man. And at the end of that, he was like, okay, who was that? I was like, that was Charles Manson. What?
Did you kill Shay?
Hell no.
Did you cut Hinman's ear off?
Hell yes.
How did that feel when you cut his ear off?
What did it feel like?
Yeah.
Well, I had done what he said for about 20 years. I'd done everything he told me to do. And I got to thinking, now, why don't this guy do something I tell him to do? And he said, no. I said, well, how comes I'm always doing what you tell me to do, but then you never do what I say do? And he said, well, blah, blah, blah. So I said, now you do what I say. And he said, no. I said, you do exactly what I say. And he said, no. I'm telling you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. You do exactly what I say. And that's about the extent of it. All this occult, all that hocus-pocus stuff that you guys are playing, I don't know nothing about all that.
You know nothing about something called helter-skelter. Tell me, Charles, I don't know.
It's a fairy. It's worse than a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
Can I make a summary just for people who are like, what the fuck is going on right now? Essentially, what you're saying is that Charles Manson was a part of some sort of a program. Yes. And that through this program, they were using him and using with LSD and all the members of the family, they were turning them violent. And why do you think they were doing this?
What I've proven is that he was getting leniency from the federal government and the law enforcement, first in San Francisco that year. Manson, during that period, turned into the Manson that we're familiar with today, you know, the monster, the embodiment of evil, as Vince Bugliosi called him, the guru who could control the minds of these followers.
Can I help you? Shit. You are real, right?
I'm as real as a donut, motherfucker.
Oh, I know you. I know all three of you. Yeah, Spawn Ranch. Spawn Ranch, yeah. Woo! I don't know your name, but I remember that hair. And I remember your white little face. And you were on a horsey. Yeah. You are...
I'm the devil, and I'm here to do the devil's business.
No, I was dumber than that. Something like Rex.
God, shoot him, Tex!
Tex!
And that's about the extent of it. All this occult, all that hocus pocus stuff that you guys are playing, I don't know nothing about all that.
After reading all this, you know, it actually made me feel a few different ways. The first emotion I felt was shocked, because I was definitely taken back by this, just knowing the level of evil that's involved by even thinking of a plan like this. You know what I'm saying? The second emotion I felt was anger, but they're going to go beyond the artist to get the artist to influence and lure in the consumer, which they knew at the time. In other words, keep promoting gangster rap so that the youngsters will be influenced by them, which in turn will incite them to want to act like them, and it's a very good chance they'll end up in their prison.
Yeah. It's worse than a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.